back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast in which we dig in deep to analyze the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe 1 minute at a time. I'm Andy Nelson from thenextreel.com.
And I'm Pete Wright, also from The Next Reel.
We're looking at Jon Favreau's 2008 film, Iron Man. And joining us again, we have Jonathan and Tabitha Carlisle, back with us from the UHF 60-second podcast and the Princess Bride Minute. Hey, guys.
Hey, we made it back.
Has UHF 60-second launched yet? I know yesterday it was on the bubble. Have we figured out?
No,
because I'm eager for that one.
24 hours, we still haven't figured out when it's happening.
Okay, I feel like if we could touch base every day, then I'm looking forward to Friday. I feel like we'll have that resolved. Okay, excellent.
Well, we are looking at Iron Man Minute 77. On today's show, the minute starts with Iron Man going supersonic, and it ends with Abu wondering what's going on with this wartime father and son reunion. So we see Tony as Iron Man. We're pretty much done seeing Robert Downey Jr. for a little while. We're going to be seeing a lot of CG Iron Man flying around and battling. This is where we get to see him hitting supersonic speeds, which is pretty exciting. That's about that means he's going Mach 1, and that's it's flying around the other side of the world. That's from LA to Afghanistan. It's about 7,640 miles. Supersonic flight is Mach 1, and that's about 768 miles per hour. So it means he's getting there in about 10 hours.
Now,
maybe he can go faster in the suit?
My global ignorance here, which way would be faster if you were to fly east or west?
That's a good question. I mapped that out, and I believe the fastest way was to actually fly west.
Okay. I mean, it completely makes sense. Just the way our American viewpoint of the map and everything, that he's flying from screen left to screen right. So that makes sense that he's, flying east to the Middle East. But yeah, I was just curious.
So it is backwards according to the shots.
Right. But that doesn't make sense to our movie language, that would seem like he's flying back towards the beginning of the movie, and we wouldn't know what to do with that.
At what point, is it faster to fly north and just go over the top of the Arctic Circle, right?
Well, considering the icing issues he dealt with earlier in the film, I think that
we haven't solved those yet. Okay.
He probably isn't going to be doing that. Here's the other thing that I'm just thinking about. If he does fly from LA to Afghanistan, a lot of that flight is over the ocean. Do you think that he would do that at this point, considering this is potentially his first long flight in the suit, or if not the first flight period in the suit? Or do you think he would kind of fly up across Canada and Alaska and then over Russia into Afghanistan? I wouldn't fly over the ocean in a suit that weighed half a ton.
No, absolutely not. I think you come down over Russia and across because maybe there's some questions of airspace because he's flying over Russia and then North Korea, maybe China, like Mongolia. These are not great places to have an unidentified flying object cruising through their airspace. I don't know. Maybe he's thinking about that.
Maybe.
Well, and he's obviously flying low enough to not be on radars. But then I would assume that's high enough, or it's still visible. Like somebody could see him flying then and go, "Oh, there's a
what is that? It looks like a missile. We should mobilize something." I'm just saying.
Oh, which makes me think. Okay, I don't want to get too many minutes ahead, but so let's just say it's interesting that nobody picked him up on their radars with him coming in, but he gets picked up going out.
Right.
So it's interesting. I haven't thought about him not getting, anybody noticing on the way in.
Well, I think there will be some additional elements that we will get to talk about in those minutes that will potentially lead to, or maybe we'll solve it. We'll see.
We'll see.
Before we leave the skies, though, he goes supersonic, and now I assume that all of those different plates and all the different layers that we saw go into the suit in the last minute, that something in there is, I don't know, what do pilots have to do when they go supersonic? Isn't there like compression suits and stuff to keep their blood flowing and all of that? I assume, because his head is at the very beginning of that suit. So I assume he's got to have something.
His brain is getting... It's like a boxer.
right.
His brain is getting slammed into his skull, and he's gonna.
Exactly. That's not good. But that whole suit that he was wearing in the beginning, wasn't that? I mean, that looks like, compression socks that you can get in the airport duty free.
I just thought it was like Under Armour to keep him warm and cool.
Right.
They can
to
breathe.
wick away the moisture.
Right.
It's wicking. That's right. He thought about wicking, but he didn't think about this whole radar problem.
So many layers to this suit. It's very complex. I don't know what he's doing to help himself. This is an interesting thing that I've been finding with the suit is it once he's in the suit, you don't think much about the man who's inside of it. And I think that the filmmakers are purposefully avoiding, for the most part, the stuff that Tony would be dealing with, like what is the supersonic speed doing to his body. Once he's kind of in the armor, you just kind of drop all that. You don't go into it too much, which probably is smart from a filmmaking perspective. But when you're really thinking about it, I think the science of it is probably 100% illogical.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, let's not go 100%. That may be a little high. I still love it so much.
Oh, it is so good. It is. I just want to know how much faster he goes, because I don't think earlier when he's flying up into the sky, I don't think we could see. It was so rattly, his the HUD view, that you couldn't really tell exactly how fast he was going. So I wonder how fast he was flying in that moment, and if we ever do see him going like Mach 2 or something. I'm curious.
I don't know. We get in some of the other minutes, we see the inside of his, the digital mask from the inside, and it does say how fast he's going.
Right.
But yeah, this one he doesn't.
Well, we know he hits supersonic here, Mach 1, because of that little puff that he does in the atmosphere there. So that right there is pretty fast. And then we wipe from that. We get the fantastic Star Wars wipe that Favreau loves to employ when he's cutting back and forth from the U.S. to Afghanistan. And we end up on the outskirts of Golmira, and we see a Jericho missile kind of split up and exploding across the hill in a terribly CG-looking explosion.
So my question is, what exactly
is going on?
Are the terrorists doing here? Because so there's a bunch of boxes of weapons out. Were they storing weapons here and they're getting rid of them and they're getting rid of the people in the process?
Yeah, or they're recruiting? They're kidnapping the boys?
Yeah, from the earlier news report, we hear that it's a little hard to hear, but Tony's watching this. When he learns that the terrorists have attacked Golmira, you do hear kind of on the news in the background that they are taking the men and either recruiting them or killing them. And then they're rounding up all the women and children. And so all the people from Golmira have been fleeing into the outskirts, and some of them were hiding in a Russian smelting plant or other villages nearby, just trying to find places to stay. And so I guess that's, I don't fully know if there's a lot of logic here other than, I guess it is recruitment and getting more people to help carry weapons and stuff. I think that they're just trying to create a generic feel of terrorists doing bad things to local people sort of vibe.
Well, they're terrorizing.
Right. Yeah.
That's what they do.
And some of it's a little, I think some of it, because of the nature of what they originally shot for this scene, I think some of it might just feel a little like slapped together, like they just needed to come up with something. The way that I heard Jon Favreau talking about this is all of this initial stuff when we see the terrorists and we see Iron Man come over to stop them, it actually took place in the smelting plant that we saw in the news clips. But they filmed that with the real Iron Man suit going around defeating all the terrorists. And according to Jon Favreau, he said it looked horrible. He said it looked like Power Rangers. And so they had to redo all of this material with the CG Iron Man so that they could make it look a lot better, because they were just really disappointed. So I don't know if that's all of this stuff in the village or just the stuff later when he flies over to Gulmira and gets blown up by the tank that we'll talk about in the next couple minutes. But regardless, I think a lot of this is just stuff that they had to kind of throw back together in order to kind of cut something together. Because, I mean, even here, I think a lot of these missile cases and military cases, some of them look military, but some of them I can't help but feel like they look like camera cases. Like it's a Pelican case
totally
that they stole from the camera department there because they're like, we just need another case to throw into this truck.
Exactly. That's exactly what it feels like. Right at 34, you open that up. That's a light kit, baby, right there.
Yep.
There's stands and everything's in there, right?
It makes me wonder if some of these were rented and they, when they returned them, they had the Stark Industries, stenciled onto the side of it.
Now I kind of want to see an actual like Power Rangers-esque Avengers movie. Not a movie, maybe just like one episode of a TV show or something. Just see them all meet in their diner or something, and then it's time to go to work. Suit up.
I would agree in premise.
Right. Maybe this is as far as we need to get.
Yeah, no, it'd be fun to see if they made it that way, but not see something that just looks bad that looks like Power Rangers, but actually like Power Avengers.
It is an interesting concept, though, right? That, we spend so much time calling for, more practical stuff, stop having digital things, throwing things at digital things. And yet here's an example where, and I can totally imagine it, a practical suit just looks bad, like just doesn't look believable. And for a movie that has spent so much time, doing things practically, I think that's an interesting position to be in.
And honestly, I just don't even think about it when I watch the movies that the Iron Man suit is not a practical suit to me. You just get so wrapped up into it. Like it seems like it's a real suit of some sort, but maybe that's my inner 12-year-old.
Something about the mechanics of it, the kind of just the metal nature of it, I think it lends itself well to CG creations.
Yeah.
And representing it well on screen where it looks pretty realistic. For the most part, we'll talk about some of that tomorrow. This minute, we don't really get a lot of it. This is more setting up the scene. We have Saeed Badrea back as Abu Bakr. He's kind of the big bad here in the village with his guys rounding everybody up. This is, before we started recording, I was talking about the Reddit community a little bit and how I think that they're tiring of me and my questions about translating clips from Iron Man, because I was trying. I'm like, I had these minutes. I'm like, I just need you guys to translate this. And they're like, there's a whole bunch of Iron Man stuff we've already translated. Do you really need more? Like, it's different stuff. It's different stuff. But they said there wasn't much. Most of the stuff was being repeated. Abu is screaming stuff like, come on, move. What's happening? And then when the soldier grabs the dad, he tells him to finish him. The little boy is saying, Dad, Dad, stuff like that. So that's the bulk of what's going on. And then they also said a lot of what these other people are saying, like the family and the other terrorists, they said it just didn't sound Arabic. But then I tried Urdu and they said, nope, this isn't Urdu. It's not Farsi. It's not Pashto. It's not any of these languages that we've heard before. And then somebody else said, well, it sounds like Arabic. I'm like, well, I had somebody already tell me it wasn't Arabic. And it was pretty useless. I think it's a frustrating thing because I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that a lot of it was probably looped because there's so much other stuff happening on screen at the same time that they needed to get some clean audio. And it was probably not people who actually speak the language saying these lines. So it's probably poorly accented. And unfortunately, it just doesn't help when people who speak the language are trying to translate. They just don't understand it. So sadly, that's where we were left with the translations for these next few minutes.
I'm really sad that it sounds like you're burning your bridges with the Reddit.
I know.
That may be the biggest heartbreaker of this whole event.
No, I think that's okay, at least for this scene, because it does what they need it to do, and I think it tells me what's going on without having to understand what they're saying. They do the little tricks of this family that we're supposed to focus on. Those are the only kids we see in the entire scene, so that piques our interest. a lot of the people in the background, if there's someone in the foreground that we're supposed to be focusing on, we don't see a lot of the faces of the people in the background. Like they're covering their faces, or so they do a lot of the movie tricks to get us to focus on what we're supposed to see to follow the story.
Yeah, we kind of follow Abu for a bit as he's directing traffic, so to speak. And then this one family that gets kind of they're getting taken to the truck as a father, mother, and two kids. The father gets taken. The father is played by Anthony Martins. He's the village dad. He's also a utility stunt player, which is primarily what he's credited for. He's not credited as the dad. We have the mom, Sahar Bibian, playing the mom. And then the son is Javan Tahir, who is Farhan Tahir's son. Farhan is, of course, Raza.
Oh.
So it's nice to see that he got his son in here to kind of pop in as the kid. And then the daughter, no credit for the daughter. She is an unknown, but that's our four family people here. Yeah, and that I didn't mention, this is all of this stuff in the town of Gulmira, and the outskirts here was all filmed at Blue Cloud Movie Ranch up in Santa Clarita, California.
So is that supposed to be snow that's coming down or ash that's blowing around?
It is supposed to be snow. It is supposed to be winter in Afghanistan right now. We got a little hint of that back when Tony was being held at the cave.
Oh, that's right.
And we saw some signs that it was very cold outside as the guards were out there sitting around the fire.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but it's done in a way where you can't tell exactly. It could be ash also.
Yeah, I figured it was snow, but it's always interesting because I don't know. I don't think of the Middle East as being cold. I always think, because you think deserts.
It's so sunshiny in the shot too.
Yeah,
we don't see a lot of sunshine in the wintertime sometimes.
That's true.
Where depending on where you are.
Oh, I'm sure.
It has been blisteringly cold here in Phoenix these past few days. Like the polar vortex has hit. It's been down in like the 50s. Really cold.
That's very cold.
Blistering.
I know. Very
so cold.
And the sun has been out. It's been so bright, cloudless skies, but it's freezing outside. It's really the icy wind that blows through. It feels like it's probably getting down into the 40s.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Andy, your suffering knows no bounds.
I almost might wear shorts if I come and visit you.
That's right.
As we've dipped down into the negative 20s.
Oh, right. Jeez.
Not to diminish.
Winter
I know cold
Maya
is cold. I get
us
it.
Today, right?
I have forgotten what that's like. Jonathan, you mentioned this whole trope we have here of the, this is one of those things where you have the terrorists pretty much killing anybody. They're throwing grenades through doors. They're running into doorways and just shooting, blasting away at whoever is inside. This is the trope, though, of establishing the central people that we're going to connect to make this part of the story work. Mm-hmm. They kill anyone and everyone with no regard until we come to this audience surrogate. And then for whatever reason, they are much, I don't want to say gentler, but they're more patient with getting around to the killing to allow for kind of the build that we're going to need. What do you guys think of that? How does it work here? Does it work in general in other films?
I think it works here because the scene is so. I mean, we're talking about just this 1 minute. Like this whole thing introduces in this minute, and then we'll talk about the resolution in the next minute, and then boom, that's it. So
yeah,
I think when it's drawn out, that's when I don't know. That's when it gets to be too much. Although I did notice, I was looking a little closely at some of the people. There's one where like a whole family gets shoved back inside, and then the guy kicks in the door. But then his gun is literally aimed right at the floor as he blasts away. So I don't know. Maybe they went down in the cellar, or maybe he's just trying to intimidate them. But I just thought it was funny that even in a cutaway shot, that they weren't necessarily actually just blasting away at everybody. But no, I think it works. I think sometimes it gets a little bit long, and it's like, yeah, why is this making any difference to, why are these people different than the other people that they have already blown away?
Right.
If you stop too long to think about it, you start to wonder, what are the motivations of these terrorists to be just indiscriminately, act like that? Like, I genuinely want to know, if you stop to think about it, why are they doing this? Why does this serve their needs? Is it just to increase their sort of reputation as being threatening? But I also think that we as the audience are kind of wired to be naturally gullible about bad guys, right? It's so does the trope work? Yeah, I buy into it. I buy into it because I need to be able to recognize these faces that I know deep in the back of my mind we're gonna save these faces. We're gonna resolve this situation, and it's gonna be something that's satisfying to me because I'm wired that way. I'm okay to deal with some of these archetypes of storytelling because they've worked on me for decades.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I could kind of resolve was, maybe that family was more cooperative in coming out when they were chasing them down. And if people ran away or they were trying to, they ran into their house, they were resisting, even more so than they were shooting. And this family was more cooperative in coming. That's the only thing I could kind of maybe pull out of that in as far as why they weren't as violent with them at the beginning. But
well, and to a certain extent, it becomes the Sophie's choice, with these bad guys. It's like, who am I going to kill? I'll kill these ones. The goal isn't to kill everybody. The goal is to recruit or kill the men, and then throw the women and children onto these vehicles and take them somewhere. Who knows where? So theoretically, maybe they're just, it seems like they're just trying to separate the guy. Like, they have a whole bunch of guys standing at the wall. So maybe they're just trying to separate them to recruit them into their clutches, so to speak. So maybe he's trying to, he looks like a good worker. Maybe like, he'll be a good recruit. Let's not kill him yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The way that it's scripted is actually a mother and 4 kids. And then what happens is the oldest of the kids runs out into the alley to get his dog named Ardo. And so he runs out to grab his puppy, and the four guards, it's a 4-man hunter-killer team. They shout at him to drop the puppy, but he won't. They cock their guns, and that's when Iron Man lands. I don't know. I can see why they would write it with a boy and a puppy. It just seems extra cute, but I think that's also why they chose not to film it, because I think it would have been just a little too cute.
See, that kind of cutesiness, that's when I stop to notice how cute it is, right? That's when I stopped, and that's when I stop allowing myself to be played and realize that I'm being played.
No, I think this works well in just being a very chaotic scene. And yet, like Jonathan said, we know who we're supposed to focus on, but yet there's still just, yelling, screaming, shooting, people everywhere. And it does, you just get that feeling of chaos. And
I will say, at second 42, this is the side of Saeed Badrea that I did not want to see. He was so much more like the happy grandpa earlier in the film when he's hanging out with Tony and Yinsen at the cave and just being all smiley. Like, this is the side that I'm like, all of a sudden I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm scared of you now. I liked the grandfather side better.
This scene at the end when we are introduced to the family and then the dad's taken away, I'll have to say it does kind of remind me of the beginning of X-Men when it shows us Magneto as a boy in the concentration camp. It's just that whole family separation and yelling and everything's gray. I guess when you play it when it's just a few seconds, you can kind of tap into some of that stuff just for familiarity, so the audience knows what they're supposed to feel.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and we've been talking about this over on the Facebook group a little bit about the whole idea of fathers and sons and how it's such a thing in the MCU, this relationship of daddy issues and stuff. And so it is interesting that they, obviously we have that in the X-Men as well, but here we also have this father son. Like, they changed it from a mother and 4 kids and a puppy to now it's about this father and son getting separated. I don't think that there's any logical reason that's connecting it to daddy issues in the film, but I do think it's an interesting choice that they chose to go with. Yeah,
that almost every time in the movie, every time you have one of these heartsick situations, it's going to be about a father and a son. Right? That's going to be the heartstring they pull.
Yeah, right. Well, do you guys have anything else for this minute?
Oh, I just want to see Iron Man save the day. I hope he does. Oh.
Well, what will happen?
What will happen?
Well, it's not looking good for this father and son, that's for sure. We've got their reunion, but Abu seems pretty unhappy about the fact that they have reunited. So I guess we'll see.
No more happy grandpa.
No more happy grandpa. Well, Jonathan, Tabitha, would you like to tell people where they can find you?
Yeah, you can just look for us on uhf60second.com. It's actually spelled UHF62ND. Little play on words, and hopefully you'll give it a listen. It's where we're covering, if you're not familiar, we're covering the movie UHF by, it's the Weird Al movie, and the only movie I believe that Weird Al has ever done or really been in. He's been in other things, little cameos, but if you're a fan of Weird Al, this is the one and only. So join us, look for us, anticipate us, one of those three.
Or all of the above.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
And you can find me on Twitter, Tabitha Carlisle, or at Tabitha T. Rex. And also, you can find me guesting on a few different minute-by-minute podcasts. And recently, I recorded with Batman Returns, where they talk about Batman Returns 1 minute at a time. So by the time this episode airs, I believe those episodes will be out as well. So you can check out that podcast.
Oh, do you have some good minutes for that one?
Yes. It was when Batman is driving the Batmobile through Gotham. Oh, but the Penguin has control of the Batmobile, so he can't drive it down through. So it was, those are some fun minutes. Those are some fun minutes.
That was an interesting film.
It is an interesting
It's been a while.
film, for sure. Tim Burton, Batman, for sure. Interesting.
I don't know, Andy. It's just going to give you more to complain about.
Probably. All right, everybody. Well, that's it for today's show. Thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to the show for free at marvelmovieminute.com. Join us over in our Discord chat room and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The Next Reel. And if you like what we do and you want to support us and get some cool stuff, become a patron over at patreon.com/thenextreel. Until next time, true believers.